How's it going, guys? Welcome to
Good.
Audio Addiction. This is Brandon here, and obviously I have Ginkgo Balboa with us. They can say their names and what they do in the band.
What's up? You have Mike here, mostly write the lyrics and do a little bit of the singing, or try to, in Ginkgo Balboa. That's it.
I'm Ben. I do the pretty much I record the way we do our music is we pretty much record it here in the studio, and that's pretty much I pretty much produce it, engineer it, and do most of the instrumentals. Although we have a few people here and there who sometimes come in and help us along as well. And yeah, some of the lyrical content and as well. Yeah.
There we go. Well, glad to have you guys on. Want to give a shout outs to Erica. Oh, she's just been a major fan and obviously a major supporter of the channel. So always love having her artists on. It's great.
Erica's great. Yeah.
I'll leave
Yeah.
links to her stuff in the comments. But
Absolutely.
wanted to know, guys, the band name is obviously something of interest to me, which we did talk about a little bit off camera. I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later on, but I wanted to know, because I'm a huge nerd about music, so I wanted to know how you guys came together, and formed Ginkgo Balboa, because I think for me, I just love hearing histories about how bands come together. It just makes me warm in the heart. So I love hearing about that. So Ben and Mike, how did you guys kind of formulate together and forming Ginkgo Balboa? Because it's got to be an interesting story, I imagine.
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I guess I could start it out and then let you finish it. It's I guess it's interesting to us, but some other people might find it boring. But we we actually coming out to we've been in LA a certain amount of years separately, and I was going through a divorce at the time, and ended up working for this company called California Beer Fest, which was basically, it wasn't as much about beer as it was about just getting people together to drink and watch music. And so that's what we were basically hired hands to do. And that's where I met Mike. We were both hired hands to sort of do the logistics and a lot of heavy carrying and stuff like that. And of course, this is a festival atmosphere, so we make friends, pretty quickly, and noticed that, and realized that we lived not too far from each other. We were both stationed out here in the valley, in the sand, in the sand. What the hell valley is this?
San Bernardino, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so we were very close to each other, and just kind of sparked up a friendship there. I was kind of going through a hiatus, band-wise, since I moved to California. I'd been in bands all my life, and then came out to California to do a lot of film, a lot of post-production, video editing and stuff like that, and kind of continued to record and do a lot of studio work. But at the same time, I really took a big hiatus from having a band. So this is the first band that I've actually sort of been in a while. Yeah. Mike, you want to continue?
Yeah.
Well, so specifically, because you were asking about the band name, right? So that's how we met, and we sparked a friendship right away, primarily first with like obscure music interests. You said you look at music that way, and a lot of fandom. We were really into, I guess you would call it, some of it's math rock, some of it's sludgecore, or maybe slowcore.
Yeah.
But I'm personally a big Duster fan. But we met. We were both fans of Slint, and we were like, "What? That's obscure." And we didn't meet. I never met anyone who could talk, wax poetic about that band with me. So that was like the start of the friendship, to sum it up and piggyback off of what he said. But the band name, I mean, it's not as interesting as a story. Like Ben said, it might be boring to some people, but we kind of were just ping-ponging ideas of what cool band names would be. And Ginkgo Balboa was one that he came up with years prior and kind of put in his back pocket. And when he presented it to me, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the one. But we kind of sat on it, right? We had a couple of
Yeah.
others for a little while.
Yeah, we had a few others.
Yeah, Shelf
Yeah,
Life is one of them. Shout out to Shelf Life. There's a pretty successful band, I think, with that name, so we couldn't do it.
Fair enough.
I
Yeah.
wanted,
Reseda, there was a Reseda. I was really
yeah,
pushing for that, but which is
Reseda was
another,
just,
yeah, it's another
yeah,
area. Reseda is another area of town out here in the valley, very close to Lake Balboa. So
yeah. It's another
there's some
San
connection
Fernando
there.
Valley town. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted Pet Detective. That was one of the backups that I had. I thought would have been cool. Maybe like a little too like trying hard to be indie, with a name like that. But hopefully our music would speak for itself. So
I think Ginkgo Balboa is one memorable band name. I don't think
Good.
I think for me it was like as soon as I saw that name, I was like, what is this band? What are they gonna sound like? What like I had a lot more questions than answers when I DM'd Erica, and I was like, what did you get? I was like, what did you sign up for? Because this seems like a very interesting band. And then she sent me over the music, and I was like, okay, I get it now. This makes sense. Like, I think upon like if you look at the name, you're just kind of like left with a bunch of questions. But I think those questions are quickly resolved once you actually listen to the music, and that's how I felt like going through it. So I want to give you guys a lot of appreciation because I think the name is what initially drew me to your band, and I think like the music is what actually kept me around. So I
Yeah.
think that
oh wow.
that was really cool, and I think I love the convention of it. I mean, I originally thought it was because of obviously Rocky Balboa, but that's not the case, which is still fine. I'm not gonna hate on you for that, but I think it's an interesting story nonetheless. And I think it just
Yeah.
shows the power of like people meeting in that way. It's awesome. So I'm glad you're able to
Yeah.
connect over that.
Well, thanks. Yeah, yeah. The band, it's also it's a play on words, which is if you listen to the lyrically, we're really big fans of play on words. So we'll throw those in oftentimes, and I think that kind of says a lot, really, more that than the name to sort of the character of the music, I guess, if that makes sense. It's just more sort of like a, you know, kind of uh, creatively using the
Hmm.
words, much
Yeah.
like I am not doing now, but
It's all right. I think
yeah,
for me, it was like, I think that's what kind of sparked the interest was just like seeing that and seeing kind of, and then going through kind of the process of not only listening to the EP, but also kind of like making my way through, what you guys do collectively, checking out the Instagram, checking kind of your social medias and seeing what's going on. And I think there's just like, there's an interesting way that you guys kind of go about that process, whether it be by the music itself or like the way that you kind of go about the social media and stuff. I think to me it makes it an interesting process to look at bands from that perspective, and then like kind of getting the other half of it by having them on and being able to have them talk about their music, because I think it's like you get to see behind the curtain a little bit. Somebody pulls the curtain back and you're like, oh shit, that's how the sausage is made. That's wild. And so
Yeah.
I think to me that's like one of the best processes that I feel like I get to explore with people that I have on here, because not
yeah,
oftentimes you really get to see that. So it's a nice
yeah,
thing.
yeah. And
Um
for the band and for the band and the fans, there's always this sort of push pull between how anonymous or how mysterious you want to remain, and
yeah.
I've always kind of veered more towards the mysterious side, but it's always been really kind of fun, like sort of kind of balancing that out, just saying, basically letting your audience know a little bit about who you are, and kind of leaving the rest up to chance, sort of like the music, in and of itself. You sort of leave it up to the listener, to interpret it. And,
Yeah, we like to think there's something inviting about our vibe, and then the music itself,
I would
which
agree.
our first EP was. Thank you. Our first EP was around this whole idea that we were the kind of poolside weirdos that would show up to your house with a six pack or something, and you'd be like, hey, yeah, come on in. Oh, that's cool. What's up? That kind of thing. and it just kind of stuck, you know. Social media is hard work, as we all know. I mean, even, you know, Erica, as our publicist, is constantly like, don't forget to go the extra mile to explain what you're doing and why, because it's, you know, it's easy to get lazy or a little bit overwhelmed by like having to show that
Sure.
side of
Yeah.
yourself, you know. Yeah, when we're like, well, that's what we do in the music, you know. But it's true, to go the extra mile makes a difference. And yeah, hopefully our stuff is fun to look at on the internet. So,
Yeah. I think it's tough
you
too,
know.
as someone who has been doing this for well over 7 years. I think it's like, it kind of puts things into perspective for bands and like as well as myself and being doing this for as long as I've been doing it for, because I think it goes to show like how much, talent it takes to like not only make great music but also trying to put that same sort of love and effort into doing social media in that way. So,
Mm,
I feel like everybody kind of
Yeah.
has to go about that process a little bit differently. And, I got to appreciate it for what it is, because, like, not everybody's going to look at it the same way. And I hope that, I hope people go check out Ginkgo Balboa, because I think the musicality, certainly, if the name doesn't strike you, I feel like the music certainly will, because I was really vibing out with a lot of stuff. And to me, it was like, a
Yeah.
band that I don't think I would have gotten recommended to me on like my feed normally. So it was nice to just get something very curated and something unique that I feel like I hope other people check out and are interested by, because
Yeah.
I really was like, if I saw this name, I'd be like, again, I'd have a lot of questions about it, as I very similarly did before. But I think
Yeah.
like giving yourself the opportunity to just be like, yeah, what the hell? I'll check it out,
Yeah.
and then you check it
Yeah.
out and you're always like pleasantly surprised with some of the things that come out. So, I hope people also have that same thought process when they listen to your music.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, because yeah, you're not gonna. Sometimes you won't hear the music first, and you'll hear the name, and you want to sort of catch people's ears or eyes, with the name. If you're being if you're being if the, it's like breaking through the clutter.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
so many musicians, especially nowadays, like DIY bands and musicians and stuff, and just you know getting out there is the first step to getting out there is probably in the name. I know I have a buddy who would only name his bands and his musical projects with A's, with something that started with A. Because he thought, well, if it's on a playlist and the playlist is alphabetically ordered, you're
I
gonna hear
mean,
that song.
oh wow.
he wouldn't be
Yeah,
wrong in that. I don't think,
no.
like it'd just be a bunch of A's together, and you keep
Yeah,
adding A's on it as the bands have dissipated.
yeah.
Oh, that would be a chaotic,
Yeah.
But no, I think it is. I think, in a world where there's just so much music at people's fingertips, I think for me it's like I find that the job of trying to find other bands or for people to send me bands, I think that means a lot, because they want to see bands do well, and that's kind of what I want to see do well. So I think it's kind of like that perfect storm of things, because it's like I know what the band is capable of and I like the music. So for me, it's like I'm being able to share that with other people. I think that, to me, if people were to check out your stuff, that would mean a lot to myself. So I'd highly recommend people for checking out Ginkgo Balboa and giving them a listen, because I think if the name doesn't rope you in, I don't know what else. I can't do anything else. I can't be physically there telling you should listen to it. But I mean, I can give my nice polite suggestion to go check them out. But I wanted to ask, guys, since you do have a new EP coming out called Balloon Duty, I'm very excited for people to check it out, because I think it's a very interesting journey. I had an opportunity to listen to a couple songs off of it. I didn't want to give myself like, I wanted to have more time with it, so I kind of just gave myself like a little bit of an immersive experience.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for other people to give it a listen, and maybe I'll wind up doing some sort of review of the album before this
Oh, thank
comes
Yeah.
you.
out. But
And
you know,
one of the things like about our music too is if you don't like one song, switch it to the next song, because a lot of them they're very different, like genre wise. They kind of bend genres a little bit. So I mean, some people don't like that. I think it's a plus, but It is what
I
it
think,
is.
yeah, I think it makes it more of an interesting listening experience as well, because I think you're not just like, this band isn't tethered to one thing,
Mhm.
Obviously, I don't want them to do like a pop song and the next song be like a country song, or like the next song
Yeah.
being like, metal song. I feel like that might be a little bit
Yeah.
much, but
Yeah,
if
no,
they
it's still
kind of,
clearly the same band.
yeah, I think if they grow in that sort of styling and are able to kind of maybe like branch off from maybe like something from one of the songs into another one. I think that to me is like one of the cooler experiences going through a record like that. Um, you know,
Absolutely.
in regards to Balloon Duty being out, what song would you recommend to a new listener to check out first that maybe hasn't heard of Ginkgo Balboa and this is the first time that they're checking them out?
Ooh,
Ooh,
that
that's a really good question.
that
Yeah.
changes. I think from time to time, right?
Sure, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Personally, I would say that's a little bright. I usually think usually it's the latest song that we come out with. So, "Good Night in the Middle of the Day" is not on our
Ooh.
EP, but that's one that recently I've been showing people. The other day, which was I guess sort of our first, maybe not our first release. It was our first release. Yeah, it was our
Yeah, it was
first.
our first race.
Which yeah, that's one I'm also pretty proud of as well, and will oftentimes show people that song, even though it might not necessarily be one of our most popular ones.
I'm going to vote for in regards to Balloon Duty, which is out wherever you get your music on July 28th. I'm going to say the second single, which is called Palm Trees, is because I'm trying to think, and it's a great question, Brandon. I think
Thank you.
because you want to, in an elevator pitch style of how are
Yeah.
you going to sum up our sound? Not that you can sum up your sound,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
our
yeah.
sound, but if you wanted to, like, be able to quickly explain, I would say Palm Trees musically, it shows a little bit of risk taking. There's the beautiful Brazilian jazz inspired, bossa nova
Oh,
inspired
okay.
guitar playing from Ben, but there's also a higher tempo to it. So you think it's going to be more along the lines of something like a ballad, but then the music really picks up, and I think that's something we air toward is faster tempos. So I think it's a good representative in that way, and it's really, really catchy. It became a lot more poppy after we tinkered with it quite a bit to make it more accessible if you listen to the entire EP.
Yeah, I think we started writing that song. That's one of our older songs, actually. I think we started writing that in 2020. I think,
Nice. Okay.
yeah, in 2020, and just kind of sat on it, like Mike said, kind of sort of went through different reworkings of it throughout throughout some of our time.
Hmm.
Throughout those couple years before it was even actually released. And it's a little bit more guitar driven, I would say, than some of our other songs. Which yeah, that's a good thing, I suppose. There's something else I was going to say, but well, there are a few songs on this EP
Hmm.
coming up that have taken a few years to sort of develop.
I'm sure.
I think
Yeah.
I think that one was 2021 because the bowling pin was the other jazzy one we worked on, but we didn't remember. I won't say too
Maybe,
much
yeah.
about this song we haven't worked on in a long while because who knows, we might
Oh yeah,
complete it
yeah,
someday. Yeah.
yeah. The one
Yeah.
I'm dubbing Cold Tea for now.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There we go.
I think the reason why I like asking this question more specifically is like I think kind of getting people a bird's eye view of the band. Like I don't think it's like all encompassing, but I always kind of like to know what songs the bands really like, or what they really enjoy or think give a good perspective on the music itself, because I think oftentimes like you know if I say my favorite, then people go and check out my favorite song, and that's not bad because like obviously I have an opinion on what I think is arguably the best one in my opinion. But then,
Mhm.
getting it from the band, I think also helps in that opinion as well too, because they might look at it and be like, oh my God, like Ben said this, or like Mike said this one's a good one. And they go and check those out. And I think it kind of, at least between like whoever I have on, like I think it gives a good like perspective on like, okay, this is one that Brandon thinks is really cool, and then like this is the one that Mike thinks is really cool, and then like this is the one that Ben thinks is really cool. And I think it kind of gives you
Yeah.
a nice perspective like overall, as opposed to just being like, okay, like what's your favorite song off the album, because I think it might be vastly different than one you feel like might be more palatable to somebody that maybe isn't as familiar with Ginkgo Balboa as me, or
Mhm.
like fans that have been around with you guys for a bit. Because I think that's mainly why I ask it, for people who are kind of just like happen to watch this video and have no idea of what you sound like, or the vibe, and then at least like they can go check it out and be like, oh man, this is actually a really cool song, I'm surprised I never checked them out. And then you get a new fan. So I hope that's
Yeah.
what happens. I hope that's kind of how the process goes with people that watch the stuff. But I'll leave all
I hope
links
so
below,
too.
so go check them out. They're great. Very excited for Balloon Duty. But the next question I have for you guys is, who were some of the first artists that you saw, like either on TV or like on YouTube, and you're like, man, this seems really cool, I'd love to like start delving more into music? Is there any artists that come to mind that really kind of sparked
Ooh.
your interest?
We're talking early on, early on.
Early on, yeah, like the
Okay.
first
Okay.
couple. I know you
Mike, you
probably
want
won't
to?
remember the very early stages, but early enough.
Yeah, yeah. Mike, you can start on that one.
Well, there's so many ways to dissect that. I mean, because you said YouTube, and of course, depending on, well, the Hollywood way of talking about your age is saying I'm 18 to 33 or whatever. You kind of have a swath to talk about the. So it's like, when did YouTube come out? When was I? No, but I will say, so when Fastball, you remember that band
Oh,
Fastball?
yeah, okay.
Yeah, they were big in the late '90s. That was the. I wonder if I've ever said this in the interview before, because I don't like to repeat too much if I can
I feel.
avoid it. Yeah, I don't think I have though. Their CD, their album, All the Pain Money Can Buy, was the first CD I bought with my own money,
Ooh,
and
wow. All right.
I remember listening to obviously the hits like The Way and Fire Escape, Better Than It Was. Those are like the singles. All three of those might not have been singles, but those are the ones I remember as hits.
As
So
hits, sure,
if
yeah.
yeah, if Tony Scalzo and his people are watching, but I remember hearing those songs and saying to myself, like, I can write hooks like that. I can find melodies like that in my mind, and and it was a total coming from a place of inspiration, and also their instrumentation, the way they painted pictures. But that was one of the first examples where I was like, I'm really understanding at the age of 7 or 8 years old, so people can do the math there if they want. I was able to be like, oh my God, this is something I can tap into. The same thing with like the Beatles. If you listen to like the album of the number ones or
Yeah.
Meet the Beatles, like early Beatles stuff, that's very rooted in songwriting structure before they creatively just broke through to new zones. But in terms of the whole like rock star pop star thing where it's like actually pursuing it, I would say Holy Ghost is a huge
Ooh.
influence. Yeah, and Empire of the Sun. When Midnight City came out by M83, I was like, this is the millennial Smells Like Teen Spirit. I was like, this is the song of youth and sticky bar floors and $1 you call it and all that stuff. So I was like, I want to be a part of something that really sums up a sound and a generation, or encapsulates a generation. So that's my answer on that. I mean, I could gush about artists all night. I'm sure Ben could too, but
Yeah.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, a lot in a lot of ways this is going to age me as well, but I'd say the earliest. I mean, the earliest. I mean, I was listening to, you know, Run DMC, you know.
Ah,
But
okay, yeah. I
but
got you.
no, I'd say what got me really wanting to into and wanting to play music was really more the people around me were getting into a lot of stuff. Not that I listen to some of these bands nowadays, but Nirvana and Pearl Jam was something that really started me wanting to learn how to actually play music because I thought it was easy enough to do. It sounded easy to do, and lo and behold, it actually kind of was easy to do. But then, from there on, I very quickly kind of, went back in time and started listening to a lot of my parents' albums and a lot of my parents' influences, which were the Beatles, a lot of Steely Dan,
Oh,
Pink Floyd,
yeah.
Zeppelin, Hendrix, those guys, Sabbath. Went through that phase, went through the indie rock phase. I was really Pinback is located out here in San Diego,
Nice.
and has always, since they've been around, has been one of my favorites. Uh, and Yeah, I really just kind of always like musically in terms of writing, just kind of have always gravitated towards something new. Of course, back then, and then I was starting to get into other math rock bands and metal bands, and so listen to a lot of metal and math rock like Slint and Juna 44 and
Nice.
and,
Yeah.
and other bands like that, and a lot of post rock like Godspeed You Black Emperor, Explosions in the Sky,
Mm,
Mogwai,
yeah.
Mono. I like Mike said, we could probably go on for hours about about the bands and stuff, but those were a lot of my biggest influences, at least creeping into sort of what we're doing now. That sort of crept into doing stuff a little bit poppier than I normally was doing when I moved to LA. I was, like I said, very in tune to uh, a lot of math rock and just sort of music that you really didn't need to have a particular time signature for. Um, and another thing is, we're not classically trained, right? So
Sure.
so
Yeah.
one of the that's why rock has always been such a big influence to most rock musicians, is because you don't really have to be classically trained to do this stuff. It's really something that comes from the mind. And it was when I started actually diving into a little bit more DAW driven music,
Nice.
which would
Yeah.
be DIY, from the basements, from your garage. Really started diving into this new sound that's going on, sort of the non-genre that is, uh, that was a probably a bigger challenge, I think, for me than just sitting down with an instrument and saying, hey, and just creating a pattern.
Sure.
Because with
Yeah.
math rock, literally, it's all there is to it. You put your fingers on some strings and you
That's
play
it.
that in a pattern, and there you go. You have a song.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
So
I've.
yeah,
I feel like you guys. I feel like you guys kind of both simultaneously like fit a mold, but also like I don't think you're restricted by it. Like I think there is something about it
mm-hmm.
where like the creativity just like flows naturally, but it doesn't
Yeah,
feel like, oh, okay, well, they're a math rock band, they're gonna write like math rock style music. Like
yeah,
I think the most eclecticness about what you write is that it doesn't feel like encapsulated in that way where you can kind of
mm-hmm.
like go out and do different things. And I think that's what really kind of inspired me to give Balloon Duty more of a listen and more like kind of more nuanced things, things that you don't wouldn't
Yeah,
necessarily like really point out, but are there. And I think for
mm-hmm.
me, it's like you guys kind of sum up this thought process that I really enjoy, which is like getting to listen to a song multiple times and have different things come out because you're
Mm-hmm.
listening to this song, one time and have something, and then the next time you listen to it, something else comes out that you might not have picked up on upon the first time you listen to it. And I think like
Yeah.
that to me, though, the kind of like recycledness of the music, which is not, I don't
Mhm.
want to say like your music is recycled, but I think that like just the process of like going through the musicality of it and really kind of picking out different things to listen to and then going in and listening to it again, but listening to it with a different perspective, like I think that
Mhm.
gives a lot of context. So if you, I will say for Ginkgo Balboa, if you do listen to the song and you might not get it upon initial listen, I would highly recommend going to give, as they mentioned, either another song a listen or just kind of refresh it and like give it some time and then listen to it again, because I think there are some moments in the song that are really interesting and really intriguing that I don't feel like you
Yeah.
might not get upon like the first round of listening. So I
Yeah.
always love doing that, and I think it makes the listening process more interesting, and I think it also makes listening to it multiple times more enjoyable, because you're like, oh man, that was some part I didn't really think like
Yeah.
Ben did in this, and that's awesome. Or like, wow, Mike really was like insane on this part, and I didn't even really notice it. Like, I think
Yeah.
those are moments where you're able to kind of like allow it to give you that journey. And so I feel like that's the best way I can kind of describe
Yeah.
Ginkgo
No, it's
Balboa to
like
someone.
some of my all-time favorite songs are songs that I didn't
Mhm.
really like at first. In
Yeah,
fact,
Mm.
yeah.
dismissed, when I first heard them, you know. So,
I think it keeps it
Which,
interesting. Mike, what were
which
you gonna
well, I didn't know if he was pinpointing a certain song on Balloon Duty. I was curious. I was like, which song?
oh
say?
But is
yeah.
there? But yeah, totally. I mean, and the thing is, the math rock thing. I don't know if I've said this publicly, but like Slint I don't really know that much about the genre. There's just a couple of bands that were safe enough for me. You know how like when you talk to metal people, you're like, well, there's this level and then there's this level for
Sure, yeah.
actual metal, that kind of stuff. I feel like Slint would be almost like the Squire guitar of math rock. It seemed it was
Eh,
like accessible to me. I don't know that you guys can speak more to that, but
Yeah.
it's like there was a certain slam poetry element, which is one of my backgrounds. I just rapping and poetry
yeah,
initially, and I was like, that's what I gravitated toward with the eerie guitar lines. But when it gets really dissonant and there's no hook to go back to, for me, like it's easy to lose interest. And that isn't to
sure.
say that's not an important art form and genres, because those are all noteworthy. But yeah,
I
so I
feel
mean, it's interesting. Like that's not my background, so it's
I
just
would
like
say I would say Slint is the American Fender Deluxe Telecaster of the genre.
I feel like you guys kind of crossed the line between like a sister genre to like mathcore, which is like Midwest emo. I feel like you
Yeah.
guys kind of toe that line of like
wow.
Midwest emo styling of music, which I think has seen a pretty good resurgence over the past couple years. But I
Yeah.
think that was like the main kind of attribute that I kind of picked up from Ginkgo Balboa, and obviously Mike was talking about just kind of the slam poetry of things. But I feel like I feel like Midwest emo really kind of nails
Yeah.
like a bunch of different
Well,
genres, and
that
I think you guys kind of nail. I feel like you're
that's
less
that's
math
not a
rock
coincidence,
and
actually.
more Midwest emo if anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's not a coincidence at all. That
yeah.
is absolutely not a coincidence.
and this guy's
Well,
from Indy,
I
Yeah,
so
I'm
well
from
there we go. Hey,
Indianapolis.
there we
It's
go.
the
So
city that all musicians skip over when they play when they come to the Midwest. But
well, I hope they don't. But you
yeah,
guys brought about Midwest emo, so I think that's the crucial aspect of things. But yeah, I think you guys pull a lot from Midwest emo, which is what kind of gravitated me towards your music more so than anything else, because I just love Midwest emo, one of the
yeah,
most underrated genres, I would argue. And I think that I think Mike brings a great energy to it that I wasn't really kind of expecting, but and then just kind of being more delved into it and obviously getting to talk to you guys about Ginkgo Balbo, I think it gives me a lot more appreciation for the types of body of work as well as the types of craftsmanship that it requires to kind of tailor everything together, because it can seem like a lot, but I think you guys do a great job of kind of like piecemealing things together and making it work in this really interesting and like cohesive way. So
Good.
I'm excited to delve more into Balloon Judy as I go on. But
Yeah.
the next question I have for you guys is, what are you listening to more currently? What's on your Spotify? What have you guys been listening to lately?
Well,
Ooh.
there's some similarities and some. Let's talk about the similarities, the ones that we both have been listening to. I know we've both been listening to a lot of the new or the later. Well, I'm drawing a blank now. Washed Out. We have been listening to the later Washed Out album.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
And
yeah.
been able to turn some people onto that in our band and stuff. We've been able to.
Yeah, I think that's called Purple Noon. It came out in 2020.
I
And
think you're right. Yeah, let me double check though. I got you, Mike.
please do. Yeah. Heavy Sade influences on that record, and we both were like blown away by it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
You can hear a little bit of that, I think, on our song from Balloon Duty called "You Decide." I think there's a little bit of that there. We tried to.
We were trying to channel Jade.
How dare they say that?
How dare they? No, just kidding.
We didn't say we did it well. We just said we were channeling.
We wanted to.
It was
like,
a loose
usually,
interpretation,
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually our vocals can kind of bounce off each other, but in this case, we were trying to make everything completely parallel, uniform.
Nice.
And
okay.
So that was an interesting take, but yeah, that's a good example. What isn't there there's a new sports album. There's a new single by Men I Trust that I've been bumping a lot.
Yeah.
The Marcy from Tops, the keyboard player from Tops, she came out with a solo album, which is insanely good. But we try to sit down and listen to artists we love and their new work, and we listen to it as homework, right, Ben? We definitely underline certain things that we recognize are working, and try to learn from other artists that have bigger platforms, but in a way, of course, that doesn't bite their styles or imitate. The most mainstream example I could think of, we were talking about Doja Cat recently, but also Pink Pantress. She's, on the rise, and she has that whole Y2K cell phone sampling kind of stuff that she does. And yeah, I love that, like, housey, what would you call it? There's a little bit of hard step in there.
Like a little trap kind of.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like trap too, but I'm thinking of like you remember the Powerpuff Girls cartoon, Powerpuff Girls, excuse me. And, the Glenn Takamoto, I think, was the composer.
Okay, I got you.
Very fast, like that kind of techno music. There's a lot of that now coming back, and I used to love that as a kid. So I don't know if we're going to get there. We haven't talked about this, so sorry. Just kind of spitballing, but yeah.
Yeah.
You were right. It was Purple Noon, Mike, for Washed Out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Purple Noon. Yeah, a lot of we've been listening to a lot of the the vaporwave and the chill wave and the lo-fi.
Yeah.
I think we all would definitely get into a lot of that, and that with a lot of that music, well, at least especially with the lo-fi, is you don't even have to really know who the artist is. He's
so good. Yeah, I agree. I'm on the same train as Ben. Like, if I'm sitting here and I'm editing, I put on some lo-fi, and for whatever reason, my brain goes into tunnel vision, and I just for some reason, I just get better at doing it somehow. I don't know. It's
well,
it's magic.
The precursor to that, I used to when I was in college, and I would put on like a lot of post rock, a lot of I would listen to Godspeed You Black Emperor and Mono and Mogwai, like, while writing essays and stuff in college, and that seems like to be what they're doing now, in college with lo-fi music. But yeah, I was doing it with a lot of the rock, and just
I feel
instrumental
that.
music in general. It's like something really good that you can just have in the background, and it just like
I think feel like if that's the case, yeah, if it
brings
keeps
out
the
those
brain
creative
moving.
juice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I like
yeah.
that. I do feel like some instrumental artists, especially the ones that I kind of listen to more so, just have a lot going on. So I try not to delve
Mm.
into that sort of stuff because then eventually then my brain is like, oh, that's a really cool guitar part. Oh shit, now I need to
Yeah,
listen to that. So then it
yeah.
kind of diverts my head in that way. So I stop listening to it for that reason. Not that I don't like listening to instrumental
Yeah.
like rock and metal music because I certainly love doing that, but there's a time and
Well,
a place for it, you know?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Or we all have, our ADD that we have to battle with on a daily basis. So however we, exercise those demons.
Yeah, oh yeah. But I think it makes I feel like at the end of the day I feel accomplished in knowing that like the lo-fi music has helped me speed run video editing or whatever, and I'm
Hmm.
cool with that.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
Yeah,
if as long as it makes
absolutely.
my day a little bit shorter and I'm able to do other things that I enjoy doing, hey, that's great. I'll take it. So
Yeah,
let
yeah.
us know, guys. Do you listen to lo-fi while doing work or, post? Let us know what
What
bands you've
is,
been listening to.
yeah, what is your work band? What is your work
Oh
music?
man, I think for me, I'll answer this because I like this question. Kind of, I know you posed it to the comments, but I will say just like I throw on like whatever YouTube lo-fi things going on because I know they
Hmm.
have like the live stream always rocking. If not,
Yeah.
like I know there's a lot of artists that I've been listening to. There's this one artist called Mikel. It's Mikel, but he does a lot of like video game lo-fi remixes and they
Hmm.
all
Cool.
sound great and 10 out of 10 will recommend if you are a video game fan. I think you get a lot more out of it certainly, but if even if you're not, like, great music to listen to and just like enjoy while like writing an essay or like doing homework or like I don't
Yeah.
know any other shit that you do that doesn't
Like
require your full
wind,
attention.
wind down
Wind
music.
down,
You
that's
know.
great too. I throw some
Yeah.
records on my
Focus.
record player, it's great, it's just a vibe.
Yeah.
So I feel that. I feel like lo-fi is like the best all-encompassing genre because it either can motivate you in a weird way
Yeah.
or like can just like you'll just be laying in bed and just have like a lo-fi record spinning and it's like raining out. It's great. One of the best one of the joys of life, I'd argue.
Yeah.
So
No, it's totally. It can help you focus, and it can help you
chill out.
uh, chill out,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
go blank. Yeah.
I love it. I love it, guys. Well, the next question I have for you is a fun one. If you guys could pick a song to cover, what would it be?
Let's pull out our list. Do we have a list
Oh, you
somewhere?
have a list. Oh
Yeah,
man,
we
all
do.
the woodworks are coming out now. Oh man.
We've
Well,
definitely
you
there's
know,
the APP one, but we've talked about that at length, I think.
yeah, yeah. So the first one we ever talked about was this "Eye in the Sky" by Alan Parsons Project.
Oh, okay.
Not sure if you're familiar with it, but we started recording something, and just kind of we've been sitting on it ever since. But yeah, that was the first one. Then we've covered a few for certain festivals and stuff like that.
Nice.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what was I'm drawing a blank on the song, the big one.
Walking on a Dream.
Well, there's
Empire
"Walking
of the
on a
Sun.
Dream." That's the the Empire song, and then but there's Josie's on a vacation far away. Yeah,
Oh, that's
Your love,
Outfield.
your
Your
love
love. Yeah,
by the
Outfield.
that's
The
it.
outfield.
Your
Outfield,
love,
yeah.
the outfield. Thank you. Um, that's a great one. That
That
was
is
I
a
think
great
that was
one.
Mike's
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, we've done that one live. We had to take it down a half step, I think, because vocally,
That's
like,
a tough song, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
That is a vocal stretch, I will say, yeah.
yeah.
Oh
I
man.
wanted to do. We were talking about doing like a Genesis song. I wanted to do. I guess this technically isn't Genesis, but Phil Collins featuring Philip Bailey, "Easy Lover." Yeah,
Oh,
maybe it's too big of a hit, but I was like, that's perfect to have our whole yin yang thing, where Ben comes in with his badass bridge, during the like. I don't know, like a there's a part of the song where you kind of don't expect what's about to happen.
Yeah.
I
You
like
know,
that. I like that.
there's so many. Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many. That's the thing is like I don't know if we've really kind of shied away from breaching the subject a whole lot just simply
Sure.
because like, there's so many songs that like are on our top to do that I don't know
Sure.
if we could ever agree on,
Yeah.
narrow it down to one.
There's a pinback one we've talked about. We've had people
Mhm.
that they've consulted with us to do like a Christmas cover, which we thought was like a little too cheesy, but it
Okay,
would be a
fair
good
enough.
way to get our Spotify hits. I mean, no disrespect to holiday peoples, but it just
Sure.
doesn't seem like something we would do
Fair enough, yeah.
artistically.
No,
But like
no
maybe,
disrespect to Rudolph or Santa
yeah,
Claus or anything.
for all you, yeah.
Baby Jesus.
Whatever,
But
all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
it's definitely a good way to like get your hits up, and then you can kind of multiply your potential listenership that way, which makes sense. So never say never, but there's also we took the instrumental to Tail Whip by Men I Trust, from the first album.
Yeah.
I just put some vocals over it and I was like, let's do something with this. And then we just didn't do it. But it was also one of those things where I was like, let's do something. And Ben's like, I guess we're doing this now. So we never did, but it's there. It's just poor quality, but it's there if we ever wanted to jump on it. So yeah, man. List goes on.
I feel like it's always like a divisive question to ask because it's like either it just stirs up conflict in the band because they're just like, oh shit, now we got to think of a song to cover and like gotta figure out what works. I don't know. I think it's more interesting because if I hadn't known about your band and I just see you guys like at a gig or something and I saw you do a cover of a song that I'm like familiar with, then I think it gives me that sort of appreciation for like showing the originality. I love when bands kind of show off like their skills as an artist. Like even if the song isn't like note for note the same thing. Like obviously I wouldn't want it to go too far out, then it just becomes a
Right.
little bit out there. But I do
I
feel
mean,
like
it's a
if a
stretch calling it a cover.
then yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's more of a
Yeah.
reimagination or whatever.
Yeah,
But
you're
I do
just
feel,
stealing stealing the lyrics at that point.
but I do feel like with cover songs, like I know cover songs are pretty divisive between bands and stuff. But I do find that like listening to a cover song, especially if I'm not familiar with the artist, I think it always gives me a better perception on like what they're able to do and like the sounds they're able to create. So I think that's what it really comes down to at the end of the day. So hopefully, Ginkgo Balboa fans, let us know in the comments what you would love to hear them cover. I would love to know your thoughts since, you guys are the fans. So let me know. Let us know down in the comment section below.
You
But
could also leave a comment about your favorite stray sound you've been hearing. Downtown
I did
Pismo
want to
Beach.
I didn't want to point out the bear in the room, but I was like I heard people
Mike,
screaming.
you still have sunlight in Pismo Beach. It just got dark here, so
Oh my! Then Mike's gonna have to find a light source soon. But
I know,
uh,
right?
yeah.
My phone's dying.
it's all right.
Unprofessionalism strikes are just like off the wall today. So.
It's all
I
right.
guess that's rock and roll, though.
That is. You guys are
Yeah.
rock and roll.
Rock and roll is finding those times when the professionalism actually coincidentally hits.
Yeah. Like, oh, we're on camera. Oops.
Oh
Yeah.
man, so sorry. Oh man, we totally didn't plan this interview like a couple of days. But the next question I have for you guys, if you were to have a dream collaboration on an up and coming Ginkgo Balboa track, who would you just love to work with?
Gosh.
Oh God, everyone. No.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a stretch, I will say.
Yeah. I mean, other than I want to say it. I want to name someone who because it would just sound if I just said oh, my favorite artist. Obviously I would want to collaborate with my favorite artist. But so keeping it, I guess if we were to keep it plausible.
Okay.
I don't know, Mike. Who would you? Maybe you might spark my.
I like that toss from Ben to Mike. That was
yeah.
He's like, I don't want to answer.
Ben's like,
You gotta,
I don't know if I want to answer first, and he's like, here you
It's
go,
a
Mike.
slow
Yeah, I'm just trying to, not that it would matter, but I'm just trying to avoid naming someone I already mentioned in conversation or in
Right.
this interview because
Right.
like it all bleeds over, right?
Sure.
But I want to think of someone, and I think this is part of the reason why Ben passed it to me is because we can agree upon like, oh, this is just a dream artist, and this is someone we actually would make a great song with that would make sense. Like it wouldn't sound like a record label putting two artists together because they're gonna sell more that way. It would be organic.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say. Let's see. Ooh, I mean, Tops. It's hard for me to not go back to Tops. I feel
Ooh,
like,
all right.
or there was someone else on the tip of my tongue. Yeah,
You know, I
Tomo.
would like to. This is unrealistic, but I would like to do a collaboration with Parcels because
Ooh.
Yes,
I mean every
yes.
single one of those guys are just phenomenal musicians. So that would be fun.
Yes, Parcels would be, and that's kind of like one of the first. So in terms of when we actually started making music together, that was one of the first new bands that we were both like obsessed with at the time. Jungle, Parcels, there was a whole bunch we were
Jungle.
both listening to a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Another one
Parcels
that
would be
I've been
one.
listening to their recent album lately is Jungle.
Yeah.
It's grown on me so much.
I like that. Is that
Yeah.
your final answer, Ben and Mike? Are those your
Well, that's
final
my
answers?
final answer.
All right.
Mike, if you want to elaborate, you can.
It's a good final answer. Are you familiar with Tomo Yakamaya?
I am not. No.
Tomo Namayaka. I believe it's Namayaka. He's gonna kill me. We talked to him about the prospect of performing together, but he's really good.
That's true.
He has a 2020 album that same thing. He came from a different genre, but still like under the same stage name, which I believe is his real name, and then just kind of experimented with other genres. And now he's having a whole new audience through this one album that's very dancey.
He might fall in line with one of the artists that you consider to be Midwest emo. But I don't know where he's from. I don't know if he's from the Midwest or not. But
I know
we saw him open
Seattle.
up for Jeremy Enigg.
Okay.
We saw him, and so
From Sunny Day Real Estate.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
nice.
bringing it back
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
whole emo, discussion.
Yeah,
I guess
that is very emo. That's arguably, I think, the most
the
the
quintessential
four-founder,
emo.
the quintessential emo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that. I will. Yeah, I did look at Tomo Nakayama, and he's from Japan originally. So
Okay.
that's pretty wild. And then he moved
He's
to
Seattle,
Washington State. Yep.
Well, Washington. Okay.
Yeah. So that would make sense. But yeah, definitely like this. Rad. Poor. I look at Mike over
I'm not
in
a
the corner.
video. We're recording.
Wow, he is just.
Here we go. Some
real life action here. Real
Yeah,
life action for Mike.
Every now and then we get accosted on the streets by real fans.
There we go. That's
take our picture.
This is the real moment here. We caught it live on camera. It's great.
Exactly. He was like, I want to interrupt, but I know I shouldn't. And he just did and ran off with this lady and made it fast.
He was like,
well, I'll finish it off with this last question because we're running out of time late for Mike, and eventually we're not even going to be able to see him anymore. So don't want that to happen. But
that's preferable.
No.
Ben would love that.
Not at all. We wouldn't want that. The experience has been enjoyable, so I don't want to take that experience away from everyone else. But the last question I have for you guys, I've been asking this a lot in my more current interviews, and I just love asking it. But I've been doing this for a little over 7 years now, and I just love the opportunity to be able to find out about bands and really get more invested with them. And for me, this is a passion of mine. So, I love doing it. And, I want to kind of know why you guys create music. Why is it important to you? Why is it something that you consider, one of your passion projects? Because realistically, could be doing anything else with your life, but, spending your life making music and devoting your time to it, obviously it means a lot to you guys. So, why continue to create and make music?
Well, if it wasn't for music, I say as a joke sometimes, if it wasn't for music, I would probably be like in prison. You know,
Well,
I would
I'm
be a
glad you're not in
serial killer.
prison, so we'll
Like
take it as a
this is
win.
yeah, this is the thing. I mean, of course, I say it in joking, but in a way, there's some truth to it, where it's like kind of keeps me sort of normal. Keeps me kind of able to you know able to not just want to kill people. I get no.
This is the first time I'm hearing all of this, by the way. So I know
Well,
nothing about this.
Poor Mike is getting caught in the crossfires here,
Perhaps there would be some other sort of outlet for rage and for discontent.
Sure. Yeah, I kind
Perhaps
of
there
knew what
would
you were
be
getting
without
at.
music, but for now and in most of my life, it's been music that has been that for me. Yeah, it keeps me sane, man. I couldn't. I mean, and it's entertainment. Um, yeah, I mean, I've always been an entertainer. I've always, been more of not as much of an entertainer as much of an artist, obviously, and so it's just another outlet for art,
Keeps
It's
you
my
sane,
favorite. It's my
keeps you in
favorite outlet
check.
for art.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you. I feel that. Mike, what about you?
The magic of music for me, whether listening, performing, music is unique in that you could listen to a song or perform a song over and over again, and it could be a new experience every time. Or if you are reliving something, you're able to do so actively. So one of the lessons that we both have the same vocal coach,
Oh, nice.
Jeffrey Polk.
Shout
His
outs.
name is Jeffrey Polk. Thank you so much for everything.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds us, or me specifically, in sessions when we go to perform on stage, the danger of phoning it in is that you're not, making a show unique for people who haven't seen you before, and having to relive what our lyrics are about. If I wrote something and I'm singing about it, I'm going back to the place where that inspiration began. So I'm reliving an experience because I like to write about memories. I like to write about feelings,
Mm-hmm.
whether positive or negative. They're always real and tangible. So the reason why I need music that much is because the sentimentality of just reliving an experience, usually a positive experience, over and over again. And I do the same thing with artists I listen to, or if I listen to our music over and over. So it's basically just this insatiability, this dopamine hit of being like, this is a song about a great date that I had 7 years ago, and I can't forget about this girl. Like, that's what it is for me. So
it's just, it sparks up memories more than any other form of entertainment, I think, does. You know what I mean? It's definitely connected to that memory receptor, even more so than movies. Because like personally, I've always, I love movies. I went into the film industry,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still there in the film industry in a way. But generally, I only watch a movie once and never necessarily have to see it again unless it's a cult favorite.
Sure. Yeah.
Mike and I bonded on The Big Lebowski. We'll quote the entire movie for you if we had time, but
yeah.
But like for the most part, I only watch a movie once, but I listen to my favorite music. I mean, throughout my entire life.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah.
obviously, you get tired of certain types of your favorite songs and stuff like that. I don't listen to a lot of my favorite bands. I don't listen to Radiohead is my absolute all-time favorite band. I don't listen to them as much as I used to. You know, but that's one thing you can always go back to, like what Mike was saying, is that it's something that, you know, you don't even realize until you've like listened to a song for the first time in years, right? Where
Oh yeah.
where you automatically, once you hear that song for the first time in years, you automatically are taken back to that time when you were hearing it a lot, and that
Yeah.
point in your life, and that feeling that you had. Even the bad feelings seem good when you're remembering them, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's
man, I was so
therapy.
depressed when I was here when I was listening to this song, and it's taking me back to all these memories of depression. But at the same time, I have fond memories of that because, you know, I'm not depressed now, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like every time you listen to it, you're one step closer to fully realizing it. And when it's your own work, even more so.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I also feel like too, it's like, you know, it's like it's like a time capsule, you know, like there's some albums that I've listened to, there's some records that I've picked up that I like, that I haven't listened to in like ages, and I have it, and I'm like, oh my God, like I haven't listened to this album in a while, let me put it on, and I listen to it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is a great album, like why did I forget to listen to it for like 5 years, you know,
I need
whatever.
to call my buddy Mark.
Yeah, I need to call
I
my
miss you,
friends.
man.
Yeah, my homies. Yeah. Oh my God. But I think it just gives those like it gives those memories that like I like, you know, I like looking at it from that perspective, because it's like, you know, music has such an integral way in people's lives, and I think for people that obviously are musicians, like they're even more so, like, you know, there's something about those, it's something about like musicians or musician type people that, you know, you just feel like almost like this fly to like one of those like electric like lights, you know, you just like there's something insatiable about like listening to music, creating it, or being a part of that community that you just can't get anywhere else. And that's, I think for me, that's like the biggest reason why love asking this question, is because like for me it like gives me more an appreciation for Ginkgo Balboa now. It makes me appreciate the types of music that you guys create, and I think
Thank
it
you.
gives me more incentive to go, you know, listen to it and share with other people, because it's like you guys put all of this effort and all of this love and all of this heart and dedication into it, and you want to be able to share that with other people. And I think that that's such a, you know, great community thing first and foremost, but also as well, like, you know, it's such a bonding experience. Like you're sharing something that, you know, you might be excited about, and somebody might take that same sort of excitement and relay it to something else in their life. They might be like, oh my God, I just got like, I just graduated college and I listened to this Ginkgo Balboa track, and now I'm like, you know, elated to know
And
that that's
cemented in time.
correct. Yeah, and it has that sort
Yeah.
of a memory attached to it that maybe the original person who wrote it might not say like, oh, that's how I wrote it with. And so you're able to create these cool like pockets in your head about the song or the music itself, and I think that that's awesome. So I hope that people
Thank
take
you.
that away from
You
Ginkgo
know,
and what you guys are doing.
yeah, yeah, and I think, like, you know, especially with music too, is something you can interpret like that,
Oh yeah.
right? It's your own thing. You don't have to explain it to people. You don't have to stand in front of it and you know, psychoanalyze it with all these big clinical words, you know, or poetic, you know, call outs. You just, you know, it is what it is to you. You know what I mean? And yeah, yeah, it's part. It's etched into your memory, and you know, I'm like what Mike said.
There we
Yeah.
go. And Mike's on the
Sorry,
move
I'm
right now.
emotional. Yeah.
He got
I'm
so
on the
emotional he had to leave the spot he was at, you know. He couldn't
Yeah.
see, he
People
couldn't
are
allow
starting to
people to
wonder.
see crying, you know. I didn't want to put him out on the spot like that, but I'll leave it off with this, guys. The most important thing, you know, tell the people where they can find Ginkgo Balboa at, what you guys have coming up in the next couple months, and you know, basically anything else you'd like to plug about your band.
Well, Ginkgo Balboa.com. That's
Remember the
a good
spelling.
start point. Yeah, don't forget the second G, Ginkgobalboa.com, like a radio ad. But that's a good place to start for anybody. We have, you know, let's see, the Balloon Duty, you can hear the whole thing. We have singles up until July 28th, but that's when you can hear the whole EP. And then we hope to book more shows. Anything I'm missing, Ben?
Nope. I think you got it. Then, of course, we also have your Instagram and our handles
Yes.
and our
At,
TikTok and all that stuff.
yeah, they're all at Ginkgo Balboa Band, GINKGO. If you can just add those, Brandon, and we
I
appreciate
will.
all your comments and questions, below
There we
to
go.
stir the pot. Yeah.
Very exciting. Well, guys, again, wanted to give a shout outs to Erica. Love her. She's
best.
she's like my fam, so she's awesome. Big salutes to her. But you know who else is fam now? Ginkgo Balboa. So please go show him some love down in the comment section below. Go make sure to go follow them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that sort of stuff. I will make sure all applicable links are in the description. Go give them all the love you possibly can. And I'm very excited for Balloon Duty to come out on the 28th. It'll be roughly a month-ish or so before the entire thing comes out. But, best be assured, I'll be checking it all out once it all comes out collectively, so go give it some love. And if you enjoyed this interview, share it, like, and subscribe. Mike has left us.
Phone.
His phone must have died. But
Always
please
charge your phone.
always remember, charge your phone, guys. That's the important thing. But please go check out Ginkgo Balboa. I'm sure Mike would say goodbye, but he has already left the building. So Ben,
I'll say bye twice.
thanks for joining us, and go check out Ginkgo Balboa, guys.
Bye bye.
All right.